Welcome to the American Valor Podcast. Today, we are thrilled to welcome a broadcasting legend, Joe Castiglione, to the show. Joe has been the iconic voice of the Boston Red Sox for over 4 decades, bringing fans unforgettable moments with his passion, knowledge, and signature style. A Hall of Fame broadcaster, Joe's career is a testament to excellence, storytelling, and his love for the game of baseball. He is the recipient of the 2024 Ford C. Frick Award. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Enrique. Great to be with you and to help with the Navy and the Valor podcast.
We are so ecstatic to have you with us. But before we get into our conversation, Joe, just take a moment, tell us a little bit about you that maybe the fans may not know.
Well, I'm semi retired, I think. I decided that I wouldn't do games after last year when it was so memorable to win the Ford Frick Award and be feted at Cooperstown with the Hall of Famers. So we announced our retirement, but I'll still be around doing some things for the Red Sox, maybe greeting sponsors and fans, and maybe even an occasional broadcast. But I had 42 wonderful seasons with the Red Sox, and my timing was good because we won four world championships in 15 years after not winning it for 86 years. So that was a wonderful thrill. And I've had many, many blessings in my career, doing exactly what I wanted to do in my life.
And that's so wonderful to hear. Now, Joe, you had a relationship with Bob Feller when you were in Cleveland, and he even played catch with your children's, I hear. What was your fondest memory of Bob?
Well, I think it was playing catch with my kids and coming to their birthday parties. And we were doing the first cable TV games in Cleveland in the 1982 season. We started a regional sports network, which of course cropped up later around the country. I believe we were the first. And I was hired. I had already done 1 year at Cleveland Indians TV in Milwaukee for a year and came back in 1982 with this regional cable network. And I was told Bob was going to be my partner. And I heard a lot of stories about Bob and well, a little trepidation. But when I got to meet him and know him, it was just a wonderful experience. He was like a grandfather to the kids. And we had so much fun. He never talked about his 12 one hitters, three no hitters, his 266 wins. It was all about the walks and some of the issues he had getting Joe DiMaggio out and Ted Williams. And he was just a delight to be around. And of course, I heard a lot of stories about World War II. And Bob always said that his greatest accomplishments were winning that war and being part of it as a gunner on the USS Alabama, rather than what many players did in World War II was to play baseball in the service. Bob was very, very active, and it's fitting that the Act of Valor Award is given in his name because he was so proud and accomplished so much. And who knows, he might have won 400 games had he not missed the prime years of his career. I believe he was 23 or 24 when he enlisted. The day after Pearl Harbor, December 8th, 1941, he enlisted in the Navy, and he missed those very formative years of his career when he would have been in his prime. But he never expressed any regrets about that. It was all about service, and he did such a wonderful job expressing that. And I think it's a real part of his legacy.
Yeah, a true service member on and off the field. And you're right, we're so blessed to give this award in his honor. Now, folks, at the Bob Feller Act of Valor Foundation, we strive to educate, support, and recognize by instilling the timeless values of service, sacrifice, legacy, and citizenship. And based on the pillars mentioned, I would like to start today's conversation with service. Over your decades in broadcasting, you've served as a voice for Red Sox Nation. Can you share a moment where you felt your work went beyond the game and truly impacted people on a personal level?
Yes, Enrique. I had a Boston College historian, a Jesuit priest named Monsignor John Dillon Day, who told me, he said, what you have is an apostolate because you bring joy and light to the elderly and the shut ins. And I never realized that that was a critical part of my job. He said, many senior citizens and shut ins plan their whole day around your broadcast. And I thought about it, and these people are very limited in what they can do, and it gave me a greater sense of responsibility and service to think about it in those terms. Something that I hadn't considered. I thought, fun and games. We're at the ballpark. Baseball's great. I get to travel first class and meet all these great players and get paid for it. And that sort of brought me back, I think, to what the reality was and gave me a little bit more purpose, I think, in what I do. The other, I think, is educating fans about the game, about some of the social impacts of the game, and also my work with the Jimmy Fund of the Dana Farber Cancer Institute, where I served as a fundraiser for 30 years on a part time basis, but expressing that on the air as well and helping raise funds in the battle to defeat childhood cancer and cancer in general.
It's amazing how much or how little we really know about the impacts of what we do and how far reaching, uh, not knowing that, hey, I may be the only voice one day for these people in these particular areas. And I bring that light and I bring that joy. And so good of that priest to have brought that out so that you was aware. And amazing also how that reinvigorates our purpose of what we do. And so glad that you was able to meet that during your time broadcasting and live that out.
So glad that Monsignor Day, has since passed on, I pointed that out to me, and it gave me a greater sense of purpose, and I think a little bit more feeling that I was helping society as well as entertaining.
Very beautiful. Very. Now, we all share this one thing in common, and it's sacrifice. Somewhere along the line, we make some sacrifice for one reason or another. And broadcasting demands a lot of time, travel, and energy.
Yes.
Where were there moments when you had to put your personal life or other ambitions aside for the sake of your career? And how did you balance it all?
Well, with the help of my wife Jan, I was able to do it. But there are trying moments. I mean, you miss a lot of things. I remember getting a call in Detroit one night that my son had hit a walk-off home run in Little League, and I was very happy, of course, but sad that I missed it. And you do miss a lot of things. I try to give back in the off season without traveling, staying home and being more of a dad. But I think that when you do baseball and half the games are on the road, you do miss a lot of family events. And I think that was something that you tried to balance, but it never does totally even out. So in retirement, I hope to do that more with my grandchildren.
Yes, and I hope that you do get that opportunity. I believe you're already starting well, being in Florida. And servicemen and women around the world, we share similar struggles and sacrifice as we put aside family and all those beautiful moments, sometimes for the sake of the mission. Baseball players and athletes at large do the same for the sake of a milestone down the road. In baseball, it would be the World Series, right? Performing in that stage. But we thank you for the sacrifices that you did make. And I did see your speech at the Hall of Fame where you did thank your wife. So I knew she was a pivotal part
Oh,
of
yes.
allowing you to do that. And so we thank her as well.
And the great thing was on the positive side that my family got to experience. My kids grew up at the Fenway Park, as I said, where they played catch with Bob Feller, and the grandkids never wanted me to retire. They love the perks. So I think involving them was one way to try to balance the things you missed. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to do that. And I think they're very happy about it too. My oldest son is a TV sports anchor in Boston and trying to follow in my footsteps in some ways. Oh, he's much better on TV than I ever was. He's got his mother's looks, for one thing. But uh, I think that those are the kind of things that if you can involve your family, you do it.
I agree. Now, we spoke about the Hall of Fame. So, legacy is one of those things that we kind of focus on in this conversation. And when you reflect on your career, you've witnessed countless historical moments in baseball. Which ones do you think define the legacy of the game itself?
Well, I think I'd have to go to 2004. Red Sox hadn't won in 86 years, as I mentioned, and we were down 3 games to none to the Yankees in the American League Championship Series, and came back with 4 straight wins, the greatest comeback probably in sports history, and then to sweep the Cardinals in the World Series. Those were probably the most pivotal moments, followed by another World Championship in '07, another one in '13, which was totally different than the other two. The 2013 team was probably the least talented of the 4 World Championships. But that was the year of Boston Strong, the Boston Marathon bombing. And it was just amazing to see how these players rallied and helped serve the victims, visiting them in the hospitals and at various points around New England, and how they embraced that situation and sort of propelled them on to win it all. I mean, it usually doesn't work that way in sports. It's a nice thing to dream. It's a great script, but most of the time it doesn't happen that way. This time it did, and that was really amazing. And then, of course, 2018, 111 wins, 119 wins when you include postseason, which was amazing. So I think those were the greatest moments. But just being at the ballpark at Fenway Park, calling that my office, was, I think, a major thrill, and it always will be.
And I'm so happy that you got the opportunity to be part of all those pivotal legacy making moments, especially the one that you mentioned at first, right? Sweeping the Yankees, which hurts me dearly as a Yankee fan. I grew up in New York, but they really did the work. They really did it. And then they went on to sweep. Obviously, the Boston a bombing was one that we all felt. It didn't matter who it was, Boston or not. And it was nice to see uh, that tragedy, be turned around in baseball, right? What a blessing to be able to have the opportunity to turn a tragedy into a blessing at the end, and all that they did. Thank you
It was
for all you
amazing.
did
It really
during that
was.
time.
These players took it to heart, and they're still very close to this day as a result, even though it's almost 12 years ago.
And I agree. Now, citizenship is one of those things that nowadays is very crucial as we heading into a new era politically around the landscape of the United States. One of the things that we pride ourselves in the military is that we bring in some great citizens, those young men and women that have raised their hand to say, hey, I'll go and I'll answer the call of my nation wherever it may need or be required. Baseball has often been referred to as a unifying force in American culture. What role do you think sports, particularly baseball, play in teaching citizenship and community spirit?
Well, I think communities adopt their teams, and the really good owners serve as stewards, not so much as owners, but as stewards. And it becomes part of the fabric of each community. I think that's very critical. And in baseball, especially, diversity is so important. We all know the story of Jackie Robinson. Uh, and remember, that preceded the integration of the military and the schools. It was 1947, a year before President Truman desegregated the military, and 7 years before Brown versus the Board of Education desegregated schools. So that was a big part of it. And today, of course, you have wonderful uh, Latino contingent of baseball players. I believe almost 30% in the big leagues. The number is growing. They're the best athletes in the world, especially from the Dominican Republic for baseball, where they love it so much and have so many talents. Those kind of things, I think, are reflective of baseball. It's always been a game of first generation immigrants. If you look back at the history of baseball, you had the German influence and then the Irish influence in the early 1900s, and then later in the 30s and 40s, the Italian influence, the African American influence with the great players of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and of course the Latino influence. And baseball's always sort of set the trend there, I think, in terms of being diversified and showing that these uh, players who have been new to this country in many ways can be outstanding citizens and contribute so much to the joy and the entertainment and the values of the community.
I agree. Now, it's been wonderful to watch baseball kind of morph on to being the light to the rest of the nation. You're right. A lot of things were instituted and initiated in baseball first. Then the nation got a taste for it and said, okay, this is going to be all right. And then it went mainstream. And it's so nice to see how baseball continues to lead the way in a lot of initiatives, especially giving back to the community. That is also an extension of what it is to be a citizen, not only taking from our nation, but also giving back to where they play. Now, you said you mentioned, hey, I'm retired. I'm enjoying this time. I'm going to give back and share some time with the grandchildren. But where can our audience learn more about you or how to support you now that you're in retirement?
Well, they can contribute to the Jimmy Fund of the Dana Farber Cancer Institute. Some of my fans have done that in my name, which is a wonderful honor. But I will be around the ballpark, maybe, I don't know how many times a year. We haven't settled on that yet, but I'll be around in spring training as well. That's a reason we're at Fort Myers now, where we have a second home close to the Red Sox training facility. And I'm not going to go away completely. I've had so many honors and accolades and the Hall of Fame. When you do get that honor, you're honored, and it feels like you're almost at your own funeral with some of the things that people say. But I think it's going to be a fun time. I'm going to miss the day-to-day routine. I think what I'll miss the most is the camaraderie with players, managers, coaches, scouts, and the baseball people. But I have enough friends that we can still chat baseball on a regular basis. And, I'll certainly be uh, greeting many of the Red Sox fans, although it won't be on the road like it had been before.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for sharing this time, sharing your experiences and all that you have attained during your career, and also for what you do now as a citizen back into the normal stream. And hey, you're not too far from me, so I won't mind driving and sharing and breaking some bread and talking baseball with you if the opportunity arises.
Yeah.
Now, folks, thank you for being with us. For more information on the foundation, please visit us at our website, actofvaloraward.org. And on behalf of the Bob Feller Act of Valor Foundation, thank you all for joining us on this episode.
Thank you very much, Enrique. It's been a lot of fun.